So my name is Brittany McDonough. I'm a member of the ChileMass board, and I've been involved with ChileMass when it was still the ChileMass Alliance. So back in the day, someone already mentioned it, in 2012, when everything was signed and there was all the events in the State House, I was serving in Governor Patrick's administration, and it was really encouraging to see all the work that happened. I think I'm going to say it as a no longer a member of the administration, that this is the most effective MOU that the Commonwealth has. So I also serve as the Director of Global Partnerships for Mass Challenge and work with really great startups from all over the world and helping them thrive and grow and work in an ecosystem like Boston, but also globally in Mexico, Israel, Chile, all over. So I would like to actually, at this moment, invite the panelists up. So just so we're all aware, the functionality of this program for the rest of the evening. I know we're almost done with the last one, but each of the panelists will be giving a brief presentation on their organizations themselves and their engagement, and then we'll have brief timing for questions, and then we'll be ending at that. So I would actually we'll just jump right into it. Luke, if I could have you, so you can feel free to present from there or up here, wherever you're most comfortable.
Yeah, I'd love to stand up here. Do you have the clicker?
Fabulous.
Somewhere?
Do you still have the clicker, Ken? You do have the clicker.
Do you have the clicker?
Don't run with the clicker.
Don't take this away, please. Thank you. So what advances it forward?
So
This guy?
forward.
This.
So yes, this one.
Oh, right there. Okay.
Is that going?
Oh, actually, it says
Oh,
mass robotics first.
never mind. So we're not.
Do you want to go up?
Yeah, sure.
Great.
Is this on? Hello, everyone. Let me start with a story. Story starts back in 2003 in Egypt. And this is where I was born, raised, educated. I studied mechanical engineering, but I always had passion for business and technology and innovation, and I didn't know exactly how this would lead me. And then I started off working for technology companies. In fact, I used to work for Siemens and Nokia for 8 years. And after a while, kind of hated it. And I wanted to do something different. So I quit my job. I came to MIT. I did a program called System Design and Management, which was a joint program between Sloan School of Management and the School of Engineering. And I basically focus all my work around small companies and how they grow and how they scale over time and what's the impact of the ecosystem on those companies. And I did this from a kind of modeling perspective, from a complex system perspective. So it was a lot of fun. I was kind of quite different from the rest of the normal students in my cohort. But anyway, I started my first company while at school. Didn't have much success, but we ended up licensing technology to the city of Boston. And then I got very much involved into robotics. And in this time, I basically got exposed to lots of robotics technology from machine vision, manipulation, autonomous navigation, all these cutting-edge, excuse me, all these cutting-edge technologies. And one thing I realized that, wow, this is amazing. The US, the government of the US invests every year billions of dollars in developing these cutting-edge technologies. But the challenge is not all of these technologies, or even, I mean, the majority of these, see the next stage after prototyping. So most of these technologies, they basically stop at the stage of prototyping. And then I thought that this is a unique problem for my company, and I started working on that for some time. And then very quickly I realized that this is not a unique problem to the company I was working in. This is actually a common problem across many tech and robotics companies in the US. And this was kind of the aha moment, being involved in robotics, seeing this commercialization problem, and linking to the work I did at MIT and my corporate experience. And I said, there is something to be done there. And I joined forces with other folks who are much smarter than me from Draper Labs and Mass TLC. And basically, we co-founded an organization which is called Mass Robotics. And this was back in 2014. Fast forward now, Mass Robotics is the largest commercialization hub for robotics technologies in the US. So I'm very proud of what we achieved as a team. But I think a key success for what we were working on is this articulation of how this organization is different than the other amazing incubators, accelerators, startup competitions out there. And as you can see in this graphics, which is kind of simplifying the very complex, very tricky entrepreneurship or startup creation process, going from an idea to a prototype to a finished product, there are lots of players there. And when you think of software, the incubation acceleration model have been very effective because once you have a prototype, you're good to go. You can put it online, let the people use it. And if there is any problem, you can always send updates and upgrades, and you can fix the product. But you cannot do the same in hardware. You cannot do the same in robotics. If you ship a prototype of a robotic product, and someone gets hurt or there is a problem, there is lots of cost, there is lots of risk associated. So the incubation acceleration model actually is not very complete, although it's very helpful for robotics companies. So there was a need for another kind of organization that basically help companies, especially robotics companies or hardware companies, basically move from prototyping close to production. So we couldn't find any right word for that, and we had to invent a new term for that. So basically, we call the startup escalators. And this was the kind of articulation we had for mass robotics. And the core part of the escalation process is not only having a physical infrastructure of office and lab space, but also the corporate strategic infrastructure. So we went out and we spoke with many of the corporates and foundations, organizations out there, and basically got them to buy into the need, to buy into the fact that there are lots of companies who need their help and support beyond the prototyping stage. And right now, we have 35 corporate partners. Actually, today, we announced 2 new partnerships with Honda Innovation and Husqvarna. We have a growing base of corporate partners that not only provide the financial support for mass robotics, but they are very active, very engaged with the startups, help them build and grow their products. We have been attracting different robotics technologies in different segments and different verticals. And right now we are working at full capacity. We have close to 35 resident startups. In fact, the startup that Kent mentioned in his presentation that do the robotic furniture is one of our residents, Ori. Very proud of what they have achieved. They are in production stage now. They're actually shipping units, and they have been growing their team. And over the last couple of years, we graduated 3 companies, and actually last month, we graduated the 4th resident. And what do we mean by graduation? Those are basically companies that come to mass robotics with 2, 3 founders, have an idea about a concept, proof of concept or a prototype. They build it in mass robotics. They scale the team up to 15, 20 people. They manage to close on the second round of financing, and basically they outgrow the space. So the pricing model of the space is designed in a way that it's self-regulating. So basically, once you grow the team to a certain stage, it's better for you to go out, get your own office. So we're very proud of those companies. American Robotics is a drone company in the agriculture space, Square Robot, doing autonomous underwater robot for oil tanks inspection. Real-time robotics doing a special processor, special circuit board that optimized for collaborative robots. So now we are expanding. The governor of Massachusetts invested $2.5 million last year in the expansion of mass robotics. So we will be growing to a new space, basically a whole floor, 25,000 square feet, that will allow us to help and support more companies. I want also to mention that back in 2016, I got invited by ChileMass, Yuli, and the MIT REAP to go to Chile. And it was an amazing trip. It was my first time in Chile. And I had a chance to visit lots of organizations, lots of companies. I met with Corfu, Codelco, and actually I went to one of the largest underground mines, El Teniente, which was a mind-blowing experience, seeing a whole city underground. And I came back from this trip believing that there is tons of opportunities for robotics in mining, because basically they fit the 3Ds of robotics, which is dirty, dull, and danger. So I think there is tons of opportunities. It's a question of figuring out the right model, the right engagement approaches. And basically, I'm looking forward for more discussion today with all of you. Thank you.
Perfect. Excellent. And I think next we'll have Luca, if we could have you join us. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
This
Can I
mine
speak
or
from,
yours?
Wherever you'd like.
This mine or yours?
from over here? Okay. Let's see. It's great to be here this afternoon to talk about two things I really care about. That's 3D printing in Chile. It's actually been quite a while since I've heard words like cachay and po. I still say bacán a lot with my kid. So that's, I'm never going to lose that one. So I represent a company called Formlabs. So we're actually based in Somerville. We're the global leader in professional 3D printing. We're about 500 people globally. And we design and manufacture a variety of different 3D printers, anywhere from desktop to some larger versions. So at the highest level, what Formlabs does is we are expanding access to digital fabrication in general, so that anyone can make anything. Right now, we're most focused on 3D printing, so I have to ask the quick question, is what is 3D printing? The way I like to put it is 3D printing is 2D printing a lot. So you basically take a bunch of 2D layers, you stack them up like sheets of paper, and eventually you have a three-dimensional object. Turns out there's a ton of different ways that you can do that. So there's this chart up here. I'm not going to go through the entire chart, but you can see like some of the core technologies at the top branches out into some sub-technologies, and that branches out into hundreds and hundreds of companies doing these different kinds of things. Formlabs plays in two main areas, so vat photopolymerization and powder bed fusion. So we have a variety of stereolithography 3D printers, as well as selective laser sintering printers. But a quick question for you, since there's so many different kinds of technologies there, is like, what's the most advanced 3D printer in the world? Unfortunately, I actually can't say it's one of our printers, but it's fortunately, I get to give a shout out to my wife, the most advanced 3D printer in the world. Luckily, she 3D printed my beautiful son, and I also get to give a big shout out to my mom as well for being a prolific 3D printer, printing 5 boys. Other than being 3D printed myself, I didn't really realize it was going to be such a big part of my life. I came from New Mexico. I came to Boston to study chemistry and physics, was going to go off into the sciences. And then I won this fellowship that took me off to Chile, and this is why it's very close to my heart. I actually spent about 5 years in Santiago. I started out living in an orphanage called Hogar Esperanza, just helping out in any way I could. This was in La Florida in Santiago. Loved the work, loved the direct impact it could have on the kids' lives, things like that. So I ended up starting a nonprofit that works with a network of community centers, orphanages, shelters, things like that. What I started to grow a little bit frustrated with, though, was how hard it is to scale a nonprofit of this sort, where our day-to-day programs aren't necessarily tied to revenue. So I had the second job called fundraising, and I decided to come back to the United States to answer a question. The big question is, how do you scale impact like these guys? Now, you may not think about Apple or Google or Tesla immediately in terms of social impact and things like that, but there's billions of smartphones across the world in people's pockets, and you can pull that smartphone out of your pocket, and you can access the world's information, and it's changed the way we do everything. Then you have a car company that's actually changing the way we interact with our energy system. And so that, over the past couple of years, came to an answer of this, and that's what you need to do is build a business that democratizes technology. So first of all, you need to make it affordable. Second, you need to make it powerful so that it's actually useful. And third, you need to make it easy. And you see this acceleration curve with computing, where you start with mainframes and you accelerate up into different kinds of technologies that touch literally everyone on the planet. And that brings me to 2012, where I met these 3 guys. This is Max, Nathan, and David, and they're the founders of Formlabs. And so they were at the Media Lab. I think a bunch of you guys have been able to go over and check it out. What they had was, at the Media Lab, was they had access to machines like this. So this is an industrial grade 3D printer. It's a 3D Systems Viper. It does really amazing stuff. It 3D prints. But it costs $300,000. You need to be specially trained to use it. And so guess who has access to these things? Rich universities like MIT and rich companies like GE and Gillette and things like that. When I met them, they had this crazy idea. And the crazy idea is, what if we can make a 3D printer that is just as powerful as this machine? But let's also make it easy to use. And then just for a kicker, let's divide the price by 100. And so I was convinced. I jumped on as the first business guy into the team. And in 2012, we launched our first product on Kickstarter. So it's a desktop stereolithography 3D printer called the Form 1. It had about 60% of the functionality of the industrial machine, so we weren't quite competing head to head, but it still cost the price of a laptop. In 2014, we upgraded it to about 70% of the functionality, same price. And then in 2015, we launched a game changer, which is the Form 2. And this one, I'd say, had about like 95% of the functionality of those industrial machines. And so they don't like us very much because it still costs about the price of a laptop. I would say that the story ends there, but actually just last week, I'm able to talk about something we haven't been able to talk about, but that's been under works for several years. We just launched the Form 3 and the Form 3L, which is a much bigger version of the 3L. And I won't talk in terms of percentages of functionality, but they basically have peerless functionality. So the big question, though, is what happens when you take a technology like this and you make it so much more accessible and easy to use? You have an explosion of usage. And so we have shipped more than 50,000 of our printers worldwide. To put that in perspective, there's companies that have been around for more than 30 years that have shipped less than that. And so we've been dramatically expanding access. To make that number even more exciting, we have had more than 40 million prints on our 3D printers. And so you could just see the usage going like crazy. That's exciting in and of itself, but what's more exciting is what people are actually doing with our products. So the bread and butter of 3D printing, and as well as our company, has been product design, going from digital to physical to mass manufacturing. But one of the things that's been close to my heart is by lowering the price of this technology, we've been able to get students' hands on very advanced technology. I was excited to see that the Fab Lab at La U that Chile actually has some of our printers. So Chilean students are actually getting access to this kind of thing. But it's also allowing innovators to do amazing things like innovate in prosthetics in their basement, like Lyman Connor. It's allowing people at the University of Indiana to create prostheses for someone who lost his jaw due to cancer. It's allowed us to become the biggest 3D printing player in dentistry. So these dentures were actually printed and manufactured on our printers. And so there's hundreds of thousands of devices manufactured on our printers. And then we have partnerships to push mass customization further and further. So we partnered with New Balance to actually co-develop materials so we can actually manufacture shoes on our printers. And then today you can actually go to the Razor Maker website by Gillette and actually order a customized razor that will be manufactured on one of our printers. And so you could see us going from like prototyping to actually mass customization and mass manufacturing of different sorts. And so, today we're at about 40 million prints. Our 10-year vision is to help make every physical product in the world, and including in places like Chile. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Luke. Our next presenter is Bernardo.
Thanks.
Hello, everyone. Some disclaimers. I don't know much about advanced manufacturing, so that's one thing. The second thing is that I will not be as let's say, a good seller of the country. I think we've seen all day, the bright side of our country, which is, and they've done a good job, Invest Chile, Corfo, Peter, and Claudio. So I will concentrate more on the gaps and what are the enabling conditions that we should work in Chile so as to have, guys like this, doing things in Chile, or Cesar Hidalgo, or ChileMass. So that would be the focus of my initial remarks. So basically, let me tell you who we are. We are SOFOFA. It's the Federation of Chilean Industries. It's the most representative institution that basically represents the business sector. Almost 200 member companies, which are one of the largest, some of the largest companies of Chile, of all sectors of the economy, from, let's say, energy to agro to services to IT. There are also members of SOFOFA, 22 regional and 48 associations of all the country. And our mission is to systematically validate the role of enterprises as trusted and relevant actors in the project of making Chile a more developed, modern, and inclusive country. And before going into the advanced part of the advanced manufacturing, some figures of manufacturing in Chile. It's shrinking as a percentage of GDP. That's the light blue part of it. It used to be 15% in '96. Now it's closer to 10%. Another data, productivity from being the engine of our economic growth is now the laggard of our economic growth. If you see the line which is below the zero, it's basically the non-mining productivity growth rates in Chile, which has been negative from year 2000. So basically, and not only that, but also last year we had very healthy growth rates in the country, but that the pace of growth is not being reflected at the employment and salaries. So that's another issue we are facing. Even though Chile has been really improving their environmental standards in all the sectors of the economy, we still have some areas of Chile, some industrial areas of Chile where you have a lot of pollution. Claudio showed the city of Santiago in the middle of the winter. This is Quintero Bay, where there is a huge industrial complex. And not long ago, there was an episode of pollution that basically provoked the intoxication of people. So basically, we have a triple challenge. It's a productivity challenge, it's an employment challenge, and it's a sustainability challenge. And we have to basically challenge ourselves to address them simultaneously. And I think advanced manufacturing, it's a huge opportunity for this. I don't see it as a threat. I think, but for that to become a reality, we have to be much faster in terms of technology adoption. And on the other hand, we have to be really fast also in people reconversion and upskilling. I think what are the gaps we have in Chile to advance faster on this respect? I think I call this problem the failure to adopt, basically because of, Ken talked about legacy cultures, legacy business models, and we have that in Chile. I can give you examples, and when in our conversation afterwards. And also we have a legacy of an educational and training system, which is not up to the challenges of the 21st century. Also, we have disparity of adoption. Maybe the large corporations, they could be at the frontier of adoptions of these technologies, but it's not the case at all, in SMEs. So we have a huge disparity of adoption, and I remember this presentation done by the Confederation of British Industry saying that if each firm, the UK firm, raised the productivity at the level of the German equivalent, it would create worth for the UK economy of more than 100 billion pounds. So I think that comment can also be made in other magnitude, of course, to Chile. So, but I am optimist, even though we have some gaps, we have some pending challenges. I am very optimist, and because enterprises in Chile have proved that they have an adaptation capacity, they're competitive, they are successful worldwide. The evidence is too strong. These are numbers of research done by the World Economic Forum and in their network of lighthouse factories. So you see huge improvement when applying advanced manufacturing technologies in productivity, agility, and customization of companies. So the question is, how do we break this legacy? How do we break this inertia and address this problem that I call the failure to adopt problem? And I think we've talked about a lot of ecosystems in here in Boston. I think we have to be honest. We have not developed an ecosystem in Chile. So you have universities working on the side. You have corporates assuming that they can do innovation on their own. And then you have the ecosystem on entrepreneurs on a third side. So we are not getting together. It's not very common to see, for instance, a sort of a startup raised from a university. You don't see, research people, and academia people investing in startups and then going back, to university. So it's not in the culture. You see a lot of companies doing their own innovation efforts and not participating in open innovation platforms. So that's the main, I think, challenge we have. So that's why we are contributing to break this inertia. In SOFOFA, we want to create this SOFOFA hub. We are already in the process of hiring our executive director. We won a project from Corfo to build a center of translational biotechnology, that's the name, yeah. So we're working hard on that. And the idea is to connect the challenges and frictions and problems of large corporations in Chile with solutions from entrepreneurs, from universities and research institutes. So it's sort of the other way around. So we want to drive innovation from the problems and challenges for large corporations, and then to find solutions in the entrepreneurship ecosystem. So we think that there are a lot of common challenges in Chile across industries. These are industries which are part of SOFOFA: food and agro, aquaculture, mining, forestry, pulp and paper, plastics, energy, wines. And the challenge where we will be looking at are they have to comply with these criteria. They have to be cross-industry. They have to address at the same time productivity, employment, and sustainability. They have to, where pre-competitive collaboration brings more value to the table than individual efforts, where public value created is higher than the private value which is captured by each individual corporation, and where you will need new business models, new governance schemes, or maybe regulatory frameworks to be changed. So one of those, and I was not coordinated with Peter, but one of those is circular economy. So that will be our initial focus of the hub. Basically, the idea is to set up this center that manage networks to encourage innovation in addressing the main technological governance and regulatory challenges related to circular economy. And the idea is to find these technology enablers from the biotechnology world, from the physical new technologies and digital, combined to basically facilitate and promote circular economy. The same you can say about energy, clean energy. I think we also have to create the ecosystem to basically incorporate into our energy matrix not only solar and wind, but also everything else which is required. I think that the regulation in Chile is not considering that. So it's not putting signals to put storage. It's not putting signals to put a backup, to put a energy management systems in the grid. So you can think about a similar kind of scheme for the energy and the clean tech field. These are the kinds of technologies that could be enablers of circular economy. Peter mentioned a lot of them. And these are the kind of challenges we are identifying: opaque value chains, linear product design, linear lock-in, inefficient collection and reverse logistics systems, and insufficient sorting and preprocessing infrastructure. And those are the solution areas. For instance, the two guys that I showed in the first slide, they are collectors and sorters of waste, and they do that in a very manual way. Obviously, there is no new technology, in the market today. So we have two problems. One is how to incorporate those technologies, and the other one is how to reconvert those two guys who are now working, collecting waste in a very manual way. So, well, Chile, it's been said, we will be the host country of COP25. So that will be a good milestone to show advances on a specific and concrete projects on this respect. And to finish, what ChileMass is doing, I think is very important. We have to connect the ecosystem in Chile with the ecosystem in Boston, and especially to learn on how to build an ecosystem as you have done here in Boston. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right, and for our last panelist in presentation, we have Viviana, and he has the clicker.
Okay, the green. No. Okay. Yeah. Good afternoon. First, I would like to thank the ChileMass team for the invitation. It's really my pleasure to be here in this day. I will present you a new initiative that we have at the University of Chile. It's a program that started this year with the support of Corfo. It's called the Advanced Manufacturing Innovation Program. So the outline, I first will talk about briefly about advanced manufacturing and the situation in Chile, and then I will explain what is this program about and what we are expecting to get. So advanced manufacturing in Chile, first. By advanced manufacturing, we mean the digitalization of the manufacturing sector. It is said that there is a group of technologies, disruptive technologies, that will transform the manufacturing sector by the year 2025. And these technologies are related to data power, computational power, connectivity. We are talking about big data, Internet of Things, cloud computing, Also, what do we do with this data? How do we make analysis with the data? So artificial intelligence, machine learning, advanced analytics. Also technologies related to human-machine interaction. We are talking about virtual and augmented reality and digital to physical conversions. In the last case, how do we get from a digital thing that we have in a computer to a physical? And this can be done, for instance, by 3D printers, by additive manufacturing. It is said that this transformation of the manufacturing sector is the Industry 4.0, the fourth industrial revolution. And the advantage is that it doesn't require a large investment. In the last revolution, which was automation, it required a large investment. Nearly 80 to 90% of the equipment needed to be replaced. And in this case, in the last revolution, we only need a partial replacement of 40 to 50% of the equipment. So it's mainly an update of the equipment and a smart use of the information we are taking from the machines. Now the situation in Chile. If Bernardo already showed a graph similar to this, if we look at the participation of the manufacturing industry in the gross domestic product in Chile, we will see that it's decreasing. So what does it mean? That the manufacturing industries are getting close because they are becoming less competitive in Chile. We need to reverse this tendency, and the way to do that is by advanced manufacturing. So we need to introduce advanced manufacturing in the industry in Chile. It's not just an opportunity, it's a must. And what's the situation in advanced manufacturing in Chile? We have very little, just a few examples. In general, there is a very little knowledge of what advanced manufacturing is. We don't have enough people trained in advanced manufacturing technologies. In general, the companies in Chile have very limited investment in research and development, and we have very limited cooperation with academia. So in this program, we want to try to help solving some of partially these problems. Okay, so at the Advanced Manufacturing Innovation Program, our mission is to generate customized, affordable, and interoperable advanced manufacturing solutions for the specific problems of the Chilean industry. We are formed by a group of institutions. The Universidad de Chile is leading the program, but also participates the Universidad de Santiago de Chile, Universidad Tecnológica Metropolitana, ACIMET, which is the Association of Metallical and Metallurgical Industries in Chile, and the company Segol Robotics. We are also going to work together with some companies associated to the program. We have 3 companies that are already confirmed, but we're in the process of including more companies. These are THA, MCM, and Inmersivo. And well, what's the program about? In advanced manufacturing, there is a lot of things that we can study. We decided to focus on 3 main areas, which are our strengths. The first one is advanced reliability. The second one, digital twins. And the last one is automation and robotics. The program will last for 5 years, and during the first 3 years, we will be working in the development of the solutions. And in the last 2 years, we have to work on the technology transfer. Now, I'm going to explain very briefly each of these areas. If you want to know more in detail what are the projects, we can talk later. So the first area is advanced systems in reliability and maintenance. We want to develop machine learning and deep learning tools that will help us to predict failures in equipment and also to predict human fatigue. And we expect with this to decrease non-productive times in the industry, reduce the maintenance costs, and also to reduce the number of catastrophic failures. In the second topic, digital twins, we want to develop digital twins for manufacturing processes. And we want to control and optimize the operations in real time, and we want to be able to evaluate modifications without affecting negatively the process. So this evaluation is made in the digital twin, in the virtual system, and then it can be taken to the real system. And the last area is advanced automation and robotics, and we will be working in the development of control, robotics, and computational intelligence tools to increase the quality and efficiency in the process of parts recovery, metallic part recoveries, mainly using advanced manufacturing, additive manufacturing, sorry. We want to increase the productivity of robotic systems, and we want to also increase the job security, mainly related to jobs in mining industry in Chile. So, okay, this program is a consortium, as I already told, of universities and industry. It's important that we will be working together from the beginning in the development of the solutions, and what we expect is to generate innovative advanced manufacturing solutions. We want to introduce new products to the market, to create new business-to-business models, and we want to help to increase the technical capabilities of the Chilean industry. Thank you.
Perfect. Come and sit on down.
Ah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, sit on down. So we have a few minutes for questions, and I wanted to thank all the panelists. I love that each of you are very connected both to the Commonwealth and to Chile, and you have very specific advice and probably a lot of thoughts on how we can continue the collaboration between Chile and Massachusetts. The specific question we have is actually bringing this panel together with one of the other presentations, and it's for Luke. And the question is, how much of the Formlabs printers and the materials are compatible with the circular economy as Peter described?
The circular economy, as Pedro described. That's a tough question. I'm not exactly sure. So in terms of the circular economy, I honestly wasn't paying attention amazingly well to exactly what the circular economy is, so I don't think I can answer that question amazingly well.
That is okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know what the term was until yesterday.
Here you have an example. Sedaco Technologies is the first urban waste sorting robot using artificial vision. So to sorting the waste, and so there's a lot of technologies, that you could apply to both collecting, sorting, and I'm sure that Peter could have another example. So but this is a Spanish startup. Huh?
So you mean this from like a sustainability perspective of the circular economy?
Yep.
Okay, now I get it. So I'd say, so a lot of our products actually aren't recyclable, but what's actually very interesting about 3D printing is how much you can like disrupt supply chains and minimize usage of materials and whatnot. So if you're thinking about sustainability from that perspective, you can not only use almost exactly the material that you need, as opposed to having waste when you're cutting material away from something. You can also manufacture in a distributed fashion so that instead of shipping large amounts of finished goods all over the place, you can ship just the raw materials and actually produce on site. So I'd say like one of the most interesting applications of that was that New Balance example that I was talking about, where so a company like New Balance, they're looking to innovate in their product through like mass customization, but they're also looking to innovate in their supply chain as well. So like if you think about shoes and things like that, if you take one SKU of a shoe, you multiply that by both genders, so you have male and female shoes, and then you have sizes like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then you have all the different colors, you end up having a huge amount of permutations, and so then your supply chain gets very expensive and whatnot. If you can actually 3D print with those on site, you can dramatically change the cost of that supply chain. You can save gas, you can save all kinds of different things. And so I wouldn't say it's exactly that circular economy of like recycling everything, but that's the way I'd address just the points around sustainability.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So I'd like actually to have one particular question answered with this panel is, how do you think we can continue to develop the relationships between Chile and Massachusetts, and how would advanced manufacturing play a role within that? So you're each very much invested in these industries, and you actually had a great slide at the end of your presentation, but we don't have to go in order, so whoever would like to jump in first, you're welcome to. You're already nodding, so I'm just gonna go with you first. Jump right in.
Well, as I said before, I think the main challenge we have is to set up this ecosystem, which is an essential condition to enabling, the faster adoption of these technologies. And you have a great ecosystem in Boston. So I'm always surprised when I go to Boston or when I go to Silicon Valley, how much collaboration you have here. How much receptive people are here, to share, the experiences. So I think that that's a critical thing, and we can apply that to clean energy, to advanced manufacturing. There's so many things to be done over there that I think that the fact that we are going to host this COP25. My concern is that for the COP25 becomes the 25th time when we set, a very nice target, and there is no action at all, So it's been the repetitive case, and so we really have to bring into Chile and make a difference in Chile of actions, of regulatory changes, and not repeat for the 25th time that we have a nice target and which is not basically accompanied by actions and regulatory changes. And I think that's a huge opportunity to visibilize projects, initiatives, and that could be coming from Boston. And I think ChileMass is the bridge for that,
Excellent. Fady,
it's a very interesting question, and I would add to what you just mentioned that I don't think that the challenge that we have has to do with the transfer of the knowledge of how to build the ecosystems and how to do all of that. I think this is the easy part. I think the difficult part is overcoming the differences, the cultural differences, the way of doing things. I think this is not something new, but sometimes we forget that. And I mean, coming from Egypt and spending the first half of my career traveling all around Europe and in the Middle East and North Africa, being exposed to different cultures, it's quite fascinating. And coming to the US, of course, and learning about this culture, I thought that, I'm used to European culture and I'll just mix into the US culture. And I mean, obviously, this was not true. I mean, it's a totally different culture of ways of doing things and different approaches and lifestyles. So I think it's a challenge and it's an opportunity too. And I think, we are all kind of going back to ChileMass. I think this is the starting point, is building this bridge. And it's not only a bridge of exchanging ideas and projects and innovation, but it's also a bridge to exchange mindsets and mental models and ways of doing things. I think this is where we need to spend more time. I mean, I went to Chile back in 2016. We had fun. We drank lots of wine, and it was lots of interesting meetings and activities. But when I went back, trying to reflect on that and trying to see, okay, so how we can actually build something substantial between Chile or different organizations in Chile and Mass Robotics. And it's not easy because the way we are used to develop partnerships and projects and innovation and working with startups and working with large corporates is a little bit different than the way things are done in Chile. So I think we need to have the humility and the modesty to say that we don't know everything. We need to learn about this different culture.
Excellent. Yeah.
Can I?
Please.
I think my mic.
No, you're
no, it's okay. Sorry.
Yeah, okay.
From the point of view of academia, which is what I know the best, I will say we are already having collaboration between MIT and universities in Chile. So that's something that is already happening, and it's easy to keep going on that. I think for our point of view, what is more difficult is how do we get this into the Chilean industry. This is the part that we are starting out with this program. We are starting this relationship, and it's going to be hard to actually get the industry to participate with us.
That's really interesting. And so how do you think that an organization like ChileMass might be able to help with that? The integration?
I think that with events like this, where we can all talk together and the people from the industry, also from the academy, can know what we are doing and we know each other. That's a good thing. So
we should have ChileMass Innovation Day 2.0 in Santiago?
Yes, I think that would be a great idea.
Excellent. Planting that seed. All right, and Luke, what are your thoughts?
So the first thing that comes to mind, I mean, obviously there's sharing of technology and whatnot, but one of the biggest things I think about in terms of just advancing an economy or adoption of technology is really investing in the workforce of the future. So one of the things, obviously, from the presentation and whatnot that I get very excited about is education and also getting people's hands-on with technology. So I think one of the biggest exchanges we can obviously have is sending more Chilean students here, getting more exchange down there. So the more and more actual hands-on access people can have to technology, that starts getting helping you build the workforce of the future. Like something I worry about the most almost every day with my job is recruiting and having the right kind of talent to build our company bigger and bigger. And one of the amazing things about Massachusetts and the Boston area is we have that kind of talent. And so one of the biggest questions is how can we help Chile develop more and more of that talent so that companies like Formlabs or others want to start establishing bases and adopting that kind of stuff. With Formlabs, some of the ways I'd say we're already collaborating is providing more access to 3D printing technology. We've already shipped several hundred printers to Latin America, Chile being one of the main places we've actually shipped a lot of our printers to. So.
Yeah, of course.
Another idea is to, very concrete, to basically set up pilot projects, collaboration between, let's say, the Boston ecosystem and our Sofofa hub on two specific issues, circular economy and clean technology. And clean technology meaning how to let's say, set up a grid which incorporates much more renewables, but also complemented by storage, by energy management systems, and grid technologies to better, manage the load of the grid. So that's very challenging in Chile. It's a very good place to pilot. There's a lot of receptiveness about that. And the same thing for circular economy. Peter is there, and we have to build, specific things, and we have the huge opportunity to show them at least some advances on these milestones at the end of the year, which will be COP25, and also APEC meeting. There will be 22 heads of states in Chile in November. So, and there's also a third summit, which is the Social Impact Investment Summit in Chile. So we will have 3 summits, almost 30,000 people going there. So I think my sort of obsession is to show specific things and not to fall into general declarations of targets, which are never mandatory.
True. Great. So it sounds like there's actually a lot of really interesting ways and newer ways that we can engage. We are just about actually significantly past time, so I'd like to invite you guys to share some final thoughts, and then we'll be wrapping up the panel. So if does anyone have a thought or two that they'd like to end on? No? Okay, I have one. So I would like to invite everyone here to actually be really engaged with both ChileMass and the panelists. So this is really meant to be an intention to start a conversation and to not end a conversation. So I think many of you might actually be coming to Mass Challenge tomorrow. We're always around to talk more about what we can do. 1, and 2, the organization as ChileMass is really here to be an advocate on behalf of companies and folks like yourselves. So if you guys have thoughts as well, feel free to share them. Also on Twitter, you're very welcome to engage with us on social media, and we'll be talking through the rest of the week. So thank you all to our panelists. Let's give them a big round of applause.
Excuse me, Brittany.
Yeah,
If I could just
of course.
final comment.
Yeah,
Bienvenido a Massachusetts.
come on down.
This is the other show.
Other show.
Bienvenido a Massachusetts. Mi nombre es Mark Sullivan. Estoy el director de negocios internacionales por el estado de Massachusetts. En enero de 2017, una gran reunión, un embajador de Chile, un jefe de Carrefour, el Dr. Julie, conoce al Governor Baker. Now I have to switch to English. We're entering the Lenten season, right? And we all know the story of the doubting Thomas. Okay? Pretty much, if you don't, look it up on the internet. So we're gathered around this table, and I'm sitting at the end. The ambassador's talking, the head of Corfu's talking, Yuli's talking about Chile's plans to engage with Massachusetts. Since I've been on the job, over 200 delegations from 74 different countries have come to Massachusetts. So I'm at the end of the table thinking to myself, I'm the doubting Moiety, the doubting Mark, going, this is never gonna happen. They're gonna leave this meeting, they're gonna go back to Chile, I'll never see them again, that's it. So what I wanna do is encourage you, all of you that have made this long trip. My wife's Argentine, so I know about the long trip back and forth to South America. So what Chile's done in 2 years, they said we have a plan. We're going to get different groups involved. The embassy is here, Corfu is here, now Invest Chile is here. You've sent members of Massachusetts, the Clean Energy, Advanced Manufacturing, Mass Bio will be going, and I'm sure the High Technology was going. So what I want to do is just to encourage you that in 2 years, I've gone from sitting at the end of this table saying to myself, this is never going to happen. Two, thinking, you know, Massachusetts, our goal is we're building bridges. You can't be everything to everybody. You know, we do a lot with Ireland, obviously, a lot with Europe. We're starting into Asia. We don't really have anything going on right now with South America. We have the second largest Brazilian or Portuguese community in the United States. There's some, but there's no hub, if you will, in Latin America where if companies came to me and said, I'm interested in Latin America, where should I go? So from 2 years ago, I now would say to them, go talk to ChileMass. So I encourage you, all you entrepreneurs that have made this long trip, kind of sitting here, I'm amazed so many of you are still here. You didn't leave to go to the Red Sox game today. That you're still here, so you're still extremely interested. So I would encourage you to continue to work with ChileMass and the embassy and keep engaging with Massachusetts. It's not easy. You know, Greentown Labs and the others going there, it's a lot to go back and forth and to build the bridge. But we don't have one, and I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be Chile. Your economies are very similar to ours, and really, except for the distance, you know, we'd be a lot closer neighbors. So the other thing that you all need to do after this is everyone call Latam and tell them you want a direct flight to take me out of the bus.